everyone, to the 19th floor of Mount Manitoba. Sometimes they say the tippy top, but who am I kidding? Clearly, it's not the tippy top. You might believe that it's the 19th floor because that's what it is. And it's the Hall of Fame show. And I'm Kirk Buchner along with Evan Nolan. We operate NotInHallOfFame.com, the Fictitious Athlete Hall of Fame, the Fictitious Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There's going to be some announcements on that coming soon because I don't look like I don't have enough to do. And the United States Athletic Hall of Fame, our favorite bastard child. Check that out at www.nothalloffame.com/USA, where you can be a part of deciding who's going to be part of the first ever United States Athletic Hall of Fame class. We've been postponing it a bit, but we just want to make sure that we're getting all the votes in and just letting everyone know about it. Because
I think we need to set a final date here. I have some videos that are pretty much ready to go. I just wanted to confirm the final date with you, and then
we said November, so we'll just pick a date. Shortly.
Well, I mean, if it's all the same to you, November 1st is my father's birthday, so and
November 1st it is.
Fantastic. My dad would have been 95 November 1st, so
okay.
There we go.
November 1st it is. So that's our drop dead date.
There we go.
Okay, so with that, I guess I won a beer. I got a beer back.
You did. That's true.
I did, yeah. So we have a rotating wager. Well, not a rotating wager. We just come up with occasional wagers for a beer that may never even see fruition. I'm now down only 2. I was down at 6, I think, at one point.
I think it was 5 was the most you got.
Okay. Yeah. So I had every other country, and you had the United States in the Women's World Cup. Both our countries. I'm a Canadian. For those who are not aware, disappointed. Whamp, whamp. What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do?
Yeah. Which is interesting, though, how Megan Rapinoe's career went out by going far right. Who saw that one coming?
I was wondering where you're going to put that in.
That one? Okay, well, that's not my joke.
It was good. It was good. I liked it. It was well done.
I forget whose joke that was, but I thought that was actually pretty clever.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
So,
saying that, there is first off, let's congratulate all the newest members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We've got some friends of ours who actually went there. So
yeah, we talked about going, but the timing was just bad for me. So
yeah, I had some other expenses that I didn't see coming, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to be prudent with everything. And I think next year maybe I'm just going to try to combine the baseball hall and the football hall, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. But I did watch it. They did a fantastic job. Sadly, you know, it was just a couple years earlier. Chuck Howley could have been there. Maybe in person.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. He's still alive, but I believe in the later stages of dementia.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the new version of the Knock videos.
I have not.
So
no.
I watch a lot of them over and over again. Roger Staubach went to his house.
Oh, okay. And, I did see some of those. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and told him, and he was like, "Oh, that's great," but he was slow to react and everything. I'm not surprised. It's not like he's dying, but I'm not surprised I'm not surprised that he didn't speak. Put it that way.
Yeah, it's sort of sadly, you know, you want to hope that in some capacity he understands it, at least for a glimmer of some sort. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I believe that when Pat Bowlen got inducted at that point, he was not in a place where he could have understood anything. I could be mistaken.
Well, when he was elected, that was the case. He actually had passed away before the induction.
Okay, yeah. So
I have my spreadsheet. So I have P's next to him who was elected posthumously. He's the only one with a P in brackets. Because he was alive, he was announced, but dead when he was actually going to be inducted. He's the only one.
Yeah, and just speaking of the Hall of Fame too, and the pro football one in general, a project that Evan and I also started, and also kudos to Jack Silverstein, who's been a huge help on that, and Vinny Laspinuso, who's anchored the whole senior section. We've done the Pro Football Hall of Fame Revisited project, and we've already done our first class. And laying it straight out, and if you're watching this, there's a good chance you might be already be a part of it, and if you're not, hit us up because we would love to have you. We've got our voting's been a little inconsistent, and I'm not going to chase people for their votes. You're either doing it or you're not.
I also feel like we're in the part of the thing that not many people know.
Myself included. Everything I'm doing is research. I've got there's virtually no video for me to sort of let go by other than firsthand newspaper or just like what other historians have done. It's difficult, and it's going to be a lot more fun as we sort of go on. And Winnie wants to make an appearance. Winnie agrees with that. Winnie's the mini Dashend for those who are just listening. But what we've done sort of so far is act as if the Pro Football Hall of Fame began in 1946. Evan and I have come to the mutual conclusion that halls of fame are usually best 25 years after an institution has begun. Be that for a league, be that for even a team, and we sort of see what happens when you're chasing. As we look at the St. Louis Cardinals and the Pittsburgh Pirates, for example, that are late to the party. At least they're doing it, but we're seeing a lot of very posthumous inductions that probably didn't have to happen.
Correct.
Because it wasn't like other clubs weren't doing this for a long time. They were. Actually, do you have the first class that we've already inducted for?
I do. I'm trying to load it. Just give me a second here. It finally shut it. All right. My computer I had a program I was trying to shut down, so I got to open up.
Sure. So while you're doing that,
just vamp for another minute here.
Yeah.
One thing I want to ask you, and I might as well ask you on air while this is loading. So a couple of people we had in the first class were inducted as players. I know you brought up when you were talking with Glenn, who were worthy as players, but probably better known for their contributions, not as players.
Right.
I just want to make sure that we're in a situation in which they're already inducted. They're not going to be back on
they're not
other side.
They will not be. The tentative plan right now, and maybe we can. I may or may not have mentioned this to you. I think I have, and if I haven't, I'm sorry. And then you can tell me if you like this or not. But my tentative idea is 1950 is when we're going to look at at coaches, contributors in that sort of ilk. Right. I agree with you. And so the two players that Evans are referring to were part of the first class, and it's hard to really argue with that. And that's George Halas and Curly Lambeau. We'll mention that now. Both were phenomenal players in their day, but they made far greater contributions as coaches / owners.
Yeah.
And it became sort of difficult. And I'll bring this up too. This has been a learning process for me. I learned that I'm marginally better than David Baker, not by much. I thought the chasm was bigger, but it's not. I think I signed off my last one with Kirk, marginally better than David Baker, Buchner.
Fantastic. Yeah, there are a couple minor things. Just by the way, Johnny Blood's last name is McNally. You just have Johnny Blood on there.
Yeah, because that's how it comes up as on Pro Football Reference. So that's why I did it that way.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's done on purpose.
Okay, that I didn't know. So of our first class, as you said, we had 15, I guess, normal candidates and 3 seniors that we could vote for. So the 5 of the 15 got in were Red Grange, George Halas, Curly Lambeau, Fritz Pollard, and Jim Thorpe. And anybody who knows anything about football, none of those names are names you should be surprised by. Those are 5 of the legendary names in the history of football.
Yeah. One thing I want to add, if I could, when Jack sort of reposted this, he went with the same thing that we do, which is we're looking at this as if it started in 46. And again, we're just trying to see if this it's a fun project. It's like a science thing to see how much backlog this really would alleviate. And started off with a preliminary list of 130. And part of my growing pains, I had the same guy twice. I didn't Doan twice because, all right, that was sort of my Lomas Brown not being on a preliminary ballot despite having 9 Pro Bowls moment. I'm not perfect. I'm far from, and I could admit that.
Hey, in our USA Hall of Fame, not a single one of us voted for Tony Hawk. So, which actually is in keeping with Tony Hawk's whole persona now.
There you go. Yeah.
But I mean, talking about all the people in charge of stuff. So, but Yeah, the people we have here, the five of them are fantastic. I would say, I think Grange, Pollard, and Thorpe definitely. I think actually Lambeau player wise, Hallis I don't think is quite as good as Ernie Nevers, who finished sixth in our
Well,
voting.
here,
And by the way,
yeah,
by the way, you get to know who finished sixth in our voting because we publish it and let you know how everything went.
yeah.
Um, and I think Nevers is going to get in next time, but you can't. No offense to Ernie Nevers, you can't not have George Hallis if he's like on the border.
Well, this is what I can't figure out sometimes, right? Because Jim Thorpe, right, did not lead in preliminary, but then
Mhm.
he got a perfect number in the semis. I don't know how that happens. It
I
did.
think people. I think at the preliminary, there are people who are like, "There's no way Jim Thorpe's not getting through," and they will get there, and then they get the
Right.
semis. They're like, "All right, now that we're here, and see who's there." Like,
Mhm.
am I going to vote for Jim Thorpe or am I going to vote for? I'll just pick someone who is further down the list. George Trafton. Like, I want to make sure that Trafton gets on this list to have it, so people can take it.
Yeah.
Take a
And
look.
here's the other thing I've already noticed, just having gone through now. Uh, right now, as we're recording, this will probably go up after we release the finalists.
The semi, the finalists
Yeah.
for 47.
Yeah, for 47. But we've gone through two preliminary things, so the 46 and the 47. And the 47 one, despite not having really any more voters, we went from like 50 something who got at least one vote in 46 to close to 80 in 47.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I think what we're getting is more strategic voting, because we're also going with the same premise as the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Uh, we're going with the basic clock of after you've retired, you've got your X amount of eligibility. So some of the
Mm-hmm.
people who are on their 18th year, even though we've only done
Mm-hmm.
this technically for 2 years, but we're going with that route. A guy like Dutch Sterneman
Yeah.
to the semifinals on 47 in 1946. He, I think, only got one vote. I can't recall. But I mean, it was an interesting jump from 1 to 7. And
Yeah, it's tournaments in like his 18th year, right?
right.
Something like
So
that.
people, I think, are thinking more along those lines of, okay,
Right. Either we vote Sternman now or we're going to have to deal with him in two more votes anyway, because he's just
right,
probably going.
right. So it's fascinating to me to watch this play out. And you can watch along too. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to create a section on Not in Hall of Fame where it's all going to be in like one thing where you can follow it lineal, lineally, linear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Linearly.
English me speak good. Uh, so we're that's so that way you can sort of like see how this goes. And again, if you want to be a part of it, great. Already too, I've already got in our little chat group that we have. I think Brian sort of mentioned like, well, this is just like the real Hall of Fame. I've already got a problem with it. So because he's
Yeah,
not
I mean,
fond of the senior category, and I get that.
he's not fond of the seniors category.
Yeah, well, right now, yeah, because we have a senior category that currently you can vote on players that didn't actually play in the NFL who were pre 1920. And
But we're still doing the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So
right. So these are pro football players who were part of the building blocks of that. And or yeah, hockey didn't really do much of that. Baseball, not so much. Basketball
I
does.
mean, there are people from the Federal League in the Baseball Hall of Fame.
But the Federal League was still doesn't predate the National League, right?
That's a question I actually don't know the answer to off the top of my head. I'd have to.
And we're gonna do one for baseball too. Eventually WWE, which will be a lot of fun.
I'm just gonna tell you now. I'm out on WWE. I don't know enough for
yeah,
that
well,
one.
when Kofi Kingston's available, then maybe you'll vote, and you'll just.
If we get, I will come in for the votes for like the Doink the Clown era, and then I'm out again.
And we've had some people, some very knowledgeable people, who just said, you know what, I'm going to be part of this later on.
Yeah,
and
and
I think we're going to see that our voting go from like the mid to high 20s to maybe a year from now while we're doing this. I'm hoping it'll double. Baseball, we're going to do this. I think Evan and I, we've sort of chatted online. We're not going to do this for basketball and hockey. They both they started their halls really early, and I don't think it's much is going to change. We don't see a backlog, so what's the point?
Yeah, I mean, particularly in basketball, like there's
Right.
just backlog is there. You can make some arguments for a few more people in hockey, but in basketball, I don't. There's like three people you're like that person probably should be in and isn't. And there, I mean, or there are other people are like, oh yeah, that person should be in, but you're not like is. I don't want to offend anybody, but like, is that person doesn't get in, is the Hall really that much worse off? And the answer is generally no. But
Not
I will say it's interesting because the first class, there were 26 Hall of Famers on that first ballot.
Mhm.
So I voted for 25 of them. The one I left off was Turk Edwards, because Turk Edwards is an incredible player, but he was the youngest. He had the longest time to go.
Yeah.
Right. And he wasn't so transcendent to me that I had to pick him over somebody else.
Mhm.
But now that we got five of them in, we added one with Clark Hinkle, who I do think is someone. If Clark Hinkle were in that situation, I would have put Clark Hinkle in over somebody else, even though he had the longest time.
Right.
But now we're down to 22 Hall of Famers. And so the first one, I'll be honest, I took a lot of time on the seniors. I didn't take a ton of time at first on the original nominees, because I'm like, they're 26. I'm not going to complicate this. I'll vote for 25. We'll go from there. Now I actually have to think about it.
Mhm.
First of all, I don't understand how Ox Emerson is in the Hall of Fame. Like, his resume is significantly better than 7 or 8 of the other people who are already in.
Mhm.
There are other people who like Red Badgrow. If you put Ox Emerson up against Red Badgrow, who was one of the Hall of Famers who didn't make the semifinalist list or last year, or in 46, like, it's not even close. Ox Emerson is a significantly better player than Red Badgrow based off of stuff. Badgrow at the time he was elected was as a senior, and he was the oldest living player elected ever at the time. But yeah, there's just certain things like that. Lavi Dilwyn was freaking good. Ox Emerson was freaking good. And it's interesting to see how that goes. By the way, I didn't talk about the senior candidates. So we had 3 senior candidates.
Mhm.
I ranked mine 1 through 10 originally. My number 1 has been Charles Follis for both of these times. We elected my number 3, Pudge Heffelfinger, who was the first player ever to be paid for being a professional football player.
Mhm.
I had no problem with that. I had no problem with any of the first 3. Follis is back here the second time, along with John Brillier, who added my 5th or 6th originally, now my 5th best. And I'm not a Ted Nesser guy compared to the rest of these guys, but everybody else apparently is.
Yeah.
I had him 10th originally. Now I have him 9th because we've moved everyone up one, a new person coming in. I don't think I will ever vote for to get in based off what I'm seeing. But it's just interesting. That part I've had a lot more like, all right, what is this like? And some of those people are hilarious. What's his name? Shorty, why can't I think of his name? The former coach. What's his name? Shorty.
I don't think there's one starting with Shorty. You mean
Do I
Blondie?
have his name wrong? I have his name wrong. Blondie Wallace.
Okay.
Blondie Wallace is hilarious to me. So right now we have Charles Follis, John Brillier, Blondie Wallace, Ted Nesser, and Henry McDonald, who's my number 2.
Mhm.
Blondie Wallace is number 4. So it's real interesting to see these people as they come through, exactly what we're going to end up with. But
Yeah.
I'm learning a lot about football, honestly. I mean, these are names you've seen on stuff, but I didn't really know who a lot of these guys were.
Yeah, and
Before.
from what I can tell, because we got some pretty high caliber voters for
Mhm.
this. Admittedly, some people I don't know that well. There's one person who is telling me all about the research he's doing just to make the
Good.
best possible, best vote that he can. 2 things though before we move on about this. So as part of the learning process, one thing just to again credit Jack Silverstein. I feel like we do this every damn show. Uh,
We should.
Twitter reach as he should.
Don't, don't, don't feel bad about it. We should do this for Jack Silverstein every damn show. So continue.
Well, yeah, there you go. It's better than it's crediting him is a lot better than me telling you about dumb ideas for me to be a game show host.
Yes, it is. So,
You wait when
but
that
anyway, go
happens.
ahead.
You're gonna point to your kid and say, "Yeah, I used to know this guy."
Mhm.
All right. Yeah. Okay. I know what that means. It means move on, Buchner. Uh,
It
when
does
Jack,
indeed.
yes, when Jack reposted it, he added one sort of caveat, which was we're acting as if it all started in 1946 and we're not racist, which is why we see Fritz
Oh
Pollard.
yeah,
Fritz
yeah,
Pollard it eventually got into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I want to say in 2005, if I remember correctly, and
yeah. He was part of the worst class ever, not because of Pollard, but because we had 4 quarterbacks in that class and nobody else. That's the only reason it's the worst class ever. So,
and Pollard was pretty much forced out of football, along with every other African American who was actually in the league at that point in
yeah.
1926. And it was not until I want to say 46, because I know that, yeah, 46 until they were sort of let back in. And that was first with the AAFC.
Yeah, and it was who's the other one? Sol Butler,
Mhm.
who the New York Giants refused to take the field until he was replaced at quarterback.
Yeah,
So
it's an unfortunate part of history, and it's a real interesting thing. And I wonder how many people are when they go back to it, are they trying to put 1946 eyes on?
mm,
I don't know how you can do that.
mm-mm.
And well, for this part, it's hard. It's next to impossible. And I don't know that I
Mhm.
want to, you know,
Yeah, of course.
yeah, because like obviously, if they did start in 1946, I think the other four would have got in.
Mhm.
Pollard would
But
not have.
probably, yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me if Fallis gets in the second class. I have no idea. You have numbers, but it wouldn't shock me if Fallis gets in the second class. And that'd be 2 African Americans out of the first 12, which is not something that would have happened in 46 and 47.
No, no, I would not have. But it's a more progressive time, apparently. It's a different timeline. It's not the darkest timeline, it's a lighter timeline. And I just
Well,
realized,
it's a lighter timeline by being a darker
yeah,
timeline.
I just realized that after my sentence there, but I wasn't thinking about it racially. That makes me good, doesn't it? I don't know. God damn it.
Yeah.
This modern
Okay,
time, I don't understand. I meant well with that sentence. I
I know
really
you did.
thank
So
you.
let's keep moving on. So what do we have to talk about specifically this week for you outside of all of this fun stuff?
Yeah, there's been oh God, what was it? Just the Phoenix Suns have announced two new members of their Ring of Honor that's going to take place this year. The dates to be determined. Also, their numbers will be retired, and that's Sean Marion and Amari Stoudemire. So I thought that is worth mentioning.
Mhm.
Congratulations to them both. Vinny had asked
How
me.
would you feel about those selections?
I'm fine with it. You know, like based on who's there currently. You know, I got no problem with it. It's these are two guys. I don't know if they're ever going to be in the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. I think Amari gets a bad shake because he's.
I don't think Marion ever will be. There may be
No,
a re-examination of Stoudemire at one point.
I think there should be. Amari, just like so many players in the modern era. New York kills your chances for so
Yeah, I know.
many things, and he's sort of one of them. It's not like he necessarily played bad there in his first couple of years, but you know when you come in there in New York with the hype that he had and you don't
Mhm.
deliver. Marion is a champion, but he was the third wheel on that team, and
Mhm.
it was mostly Miami still trying to figure everything out.
Right, and it wasn't in
And the
Phoenix.
will of right, and it was the will of Dirk Nowitzki. So
Right, but again, but that championship
it
wasn't
wasn't in
in
Phoenix,
Phoenix.
yeah, exactly. So, I guess it was more referring
At
to the
this point,
actual hall.
at,
But,
at this point, the Phoenix Suns may be the best franchise or the most storied franchise in North American sports without a championship.
in
I'd
all
have to
North American sports,
think
ooh,
so.
ooh,
I have an idea for a new segment for me to end this show as opposed to the good, the bad, and the okay.
okay.
Um, so not we won't do it this week. But I was gonna do since my lucky number is 11 because I am El Evan in Spanish. Uh, I was going to do my top 11 of something, and that was one of the first ones I was thinking of, the 11 greatest franchises in sports that have not actually won a championship in
That's a
North America.
pretty good one. I off the top of my head, I can't really come up with any.
Yeah, I mean, it was for a while the Blues were in
Oh,
there, and just
oh,
beat my
okay. I
Blues.
know. Vikings.
The Vikings are definitely on there.
Mhm.
Although they haven't won an NFC championship
Well,
or
they
the
won the
NFL.
NFL. They won technically the NFL. They did win an NFL championship when they still existed, but they lost the Super Bowl.
Yeah, so that, I mean, that's the same thing with the
So,
Browns and Lions and
what
stuff.
do you call that?
I don't know. I mean, the Bills won the AFL championship too. So, um, I don't know. It's one of those things I have to think of. That'd be. I'll do it next week. We'll do that next week as a
Well,
change
there
of
you go.
pace.
Then the Quebec Nordiques.
No, 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 no. They
The
won
Winnipeg.
in they won in Colorado. So,
Oh, okay. Then the Winnipeg Jets, three-time Avco Cup champions.
would you put the Jets over the Viking over the Canucks?
Well, now they're the Coyotes, and God knows where they're going to be next. I don't know how you
Well,
screw.
the Coyotes bought land
Oh, they did they?
to build in Arizona. That happened earlier this week.
Hmm.
So we'll see what happens. Or at least they were. Who knows? I think they had an option to purchase land. Actually, is what I saw.
I
So,
didn't ask you what your good, bad, and ugly is this week. Is that anything with the U.S. Women's team?
that's gonna be bad for the reaction to it. We'll get to that.
Okay, all right. So I was going to ask yours. So then, if you're talking about that later, then I guess we can move on to the people who, unfortunately, we've lost.
Yeah. So I went through last week. You only really went through two people,
Yeah,
right?
I hope you don't mind that I did it that way because I'm
Yeah.
not as sensitive on this stuff as you are. I'm terrible at that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So
I worked on the two that I was really passionate about. I hope that's okay.
yeah, I get it. No, I get it. So let's just start with the beige mistress for those of you who are new-ish people coming in. The beige mistress is a serial killer that we believe exists that only kills Hungarian athletes.
Mhm.
And the beige mistress has taken Tibor Lendvai, age 83, who was in the 100,000-meter time trial and men tandems event in the 1968 Summer Olympics. So
Wait,
you could say it's old age.
100,000 meter?
Sorry, the 1,000 meter
Oh, I
time.
heard 100,000. I'm thinking
Yeah, I was gonna say 100
time
meters.
trial that is.
Yeah, that's when you just die. So it's the ultra marathon.
Okay.
But he was 83. Some say he died of old age. I see a serial killer. Because why not? I will say one of the last remaining Munchkins died.
Hmm.
Betty Ann Bruno passed away at the age of 91. She went on to become a she won 3 Emmy Awards for her work on television, and actually became a hula dance instructor in retirement starting in 1992.
Man, a Munchkin did this?
Yes.
What did they win an Emmy for?
She had a role in The Hurricane by John Ford's 1932 film. I don't actually know. Let me see. What did she win her Emmys for? I don't have it directly in front
Okay,
of me.
no worries. Sorry, I find that fascinating.
Yeah. So she was also an investigative reporter for 20 years for KTVU in San Francisco.
I'm sure she was able to sort of dig through small spaces.
She knew everyone she needed to know in the Lollipop Guild. So yeah, she passed away at the age of 91.
That's why I'm bad at this.
I actually met a Munchkin once. Actually, I've met the same Munchkin 3 times. We have a Wizard of Oz fest out here in LaGrange. I can't remember exactly what town it's in. That happens every year around Halloween, and so we had a Munchkin come out a few times. So I've met her. I don't know if she's still alive. I haven't been out there for a few years, but she was like 103 last I saw her, and not very tall. She's lost height, over the years. So
Okay.
Hector Salamanca from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul passed away.
Mark Margolis.
The age of 83. You have anything to say about either
Uh,
Hector
I
Walker or
don't know
Mark
too much about
Ruffalo?
his early years. I mean, I first saw him at Oz,
Right.
and he always seemed to be playing these, the old tough guy roles, which he did very, very well. No, just once I first saw him, then it's like I kept seeing him over and over. So, one of
And
those
then you go back.
guys who seem to get a lot of work after 60.
Yeah, like he had his first film credits in 76. So he at that point was
Mhm.
37 in his first one.
Okay,
And then after that, like the older he got, the more stuff he was in. I mean, he was in Ace Ventura Pet Detective. Like
that's right.
just it just keeps going and going and going. It was like something in 76, something in 79, and then all of a sudden in 90,
Mhm.
boom, he's in like tons and tons of movies. But yeah, so he passed away at the age of 83. Um, Also passing away, uh, Robert Swan, who was known for, I always think of him as the deputy in Natural Born Killers. Was also Backdraft, Hoosiers, The Untouchables, a few other things. He passed away at the age of 78. Um, Johnny Hardwick passed away too. I know you posted something on that today. Dale Gribble,
Yeah, yeah,
64.
yeah. What do- it's Mike Judge cartoon. I always like that. Propane and propane accessories. But yeah, Dale Gribble for me was my favorite character. I think, yeah, I never noticed it before how much he looks like Biden, that character.
I guess he does.
Yeah,
But yeah,
just
Johnny Hardwick also was a writer on King of the Hill, but he passed away at the age of only 64. I didn't see from what. Um, Also passing away, one of the greatest directors of all time, William Friedkin passed away.
Oh, I miss that.
Uh,
Exorcist.
best known for The Exorcist, of course, but also did The Brinks Job, which is great. Live and Die in L.A., Killer Joe, Boys in the Band, a whole bunch of really, really great movies. Um, Last movie is actually coming out this year. The Teen Mutiny Court Martial is
Mm.
coming out. Of course, Blue Chips, which is one of the ones that we care about for our fictitious athletes Hall of
Yeah,
Fame,
I just rewatched that one.
and of course the French Connection,
Much
which
better
I didn't like as much as I wanted to when we saw that one.
because you're fondness for Gene Hackman.
Yeah, I mean, I love Gene Hackman, but I
Yeah.
just, it's one of those things like if I had read And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie after I'd seen like Scream and all those other things, I would be like, oh, this is derivative. But I kind of feel
I see where you're going with this. Okay.
like The French Connection was the one that created the milieu, and now I sound like I'm a film person. And it's just been done so many times. When you go back to the original, it doesn't quite seem the same. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Uh,
Mhm. Mhm.
I mean, it was really good. I just wanted to be a little bit better. But again, it was the first one of its kind. So, and I do love Gene Hackman.
I'm sure a lot of younger people feel that way about The Exorcist.
That's
Heard
actually
all about
probably,
that. Yeah.
yeah, that's probably true.
I think I felt
You,
that way when I first saw Psycho. Like, look, this is what all the hype's about.
yeah, because Psycho is not really that scary. The cinematography is fantastic. Although, to be fair, the first time I saw Psycho was with the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra providing live musical accompaniment.
Oh,
Um, yeah,
okay.
so we saw it in Baltimore in a like a concert hall rather than a movie theater, and so that it was with the live accompaniment, it was probably scarier than it would have been otherwise. We saw a few things that way. We saw a couple of Buster Keaton films in up in Somerville, Massachusetts, with a live organist, including Steamboat Bill Jr., which is speaking of something that created the genre. You know, the whole thing with the front of the building falling and the guys in
Mhm.
the window survives.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
It's from that movie, except it was one take and it was just him in a falling building. So if he was off his mark, bad news bears. But he was, of course, Buster Keaton. And Buster Keaton, if you guys have never seen a Buster Keaton film, you're going to be like, how did he do any of this? And the answer was
I
he
never
was
have.
he was insane and a genius.
Mm.
So Like I highly recommend everyone just go Steamboat Bill Jr. Don't watch it for the plot. The plot doesn't matter. Just watch it for what the heck he does. Like he invented parkour for that film. So, but yeah. So anyway, William Friedkin was 87. This is both I guess a piece of news for a friend of mine and a goodbye. But Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame barrel racer Sherry Combs Johnson passed away at the age of 85. But the reason I'm going to say it's also a thing. One of my good friends from college, or actually one of my fraternity brothers, Mark Fine, was just named the chief marketing officer for the Professional Bull Riders Association today.
All right.
So he went from, he was in the National Lacrosse League, and now he was named the CMO of the PBA. So
when you were drowning Pabst or whatever it was you were having in the frat house, did he ever say to you like, 25 years from now, I'm going to be running the Bull Riders? Like, is that something you saw coming?
Yeah, definitely. No, he's had an interest. He was in the front office of the Mets. I think he was like second or third in command of the National Lacrosse League.
Okay.
So he's been around quite a bit already.
Why isn't he on our committee?
That's a good question. I've never asked him.
Yeah.
I'll ask him.
Okay.
See what he says. So, but yeah, Sherry Combs Johnson was 85. From the world of cycling, Federico Bahamontes died at the age of 95. He won the Tour de France in 1959. So 1959 Tour de France winner passes away at the age of 95. So passing away, International Motorsports Hall of Famer Francois Castaigne, the head of AMC's car development division, basically, also the creator, among other things, of the Jeep Cherokee and Dodge Viper. I also remember the Automotive Hall of Fame. He passed away at the age of 78. Talk about two different cars, the Jeep Cherokee and the Dodge Viper.
I know nothing about cars.
Jeep Cherokee, big boxy thing that everyone drove in the 80s with the wood panel, right? Dodge Viper, road racing car. So
I rented a car when I was last in Ontario. My brother, some kind of car he rented, I don't know, it was black.
Yeah, I was playing soccer this past weekend, and one of my teammates was like, "Hey man, have you tried out the new one?" He named some brand of shoe, and I'm like, "No." I do not care. He's like, "Yeah, they're not making them with kangaroo leather anymore." I'm like, "Sucks, I guess." I don't know. I didn't know they made shoes with kangaroo leather. So, yeah, I don't even know. From the world of football, Ben Wilson, who played with the Rams and Packers, remember the Super Bowl II Packers, passed away at the age of 84. He was a fullback.
Mm-hmm.
Also passing away, George Wilson, played with the Cincinnati Royals, Chicago Bulls, Seattle Supersonics, Phoenix Suns, 76ers, and the Braves. Remember the 62 University of Cincinnati national champions. He also won a gold medal in the 64 Tokyo Games. He passed away at the age of 81. I know we didn't cover this last week.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's right. But I do want to point Rocky Wirtz passed away, the owner of the Chicago Blackhawks. Rocky, very well thought of, although probably responsible for the cover-up of the Kyle Beach situation overall. But Rocky, also half owner of the United Center, passed away suddenly at the age of 70. Well, I was on vacation. Sticking with hockey, Wayne Maxner, who played mostly with the Bruins, I've also played with the San Francisco Seals, passed away at the age of 80. Also was coach of the Detroit Red Wings for a couple of seasons. Also Bob Murdoch, who was coach of the Chicago Blackhawks and the original Winnipeg Jets, passed away at the age of 76. Played for Canadiens, Kings, and the Flames in both Atlanta and Calgary as a defenseman. Also passing away, the man who took over for Jerry Cheevers for the Boston Bruins, Gil Gilbert or
Oh,
Gilbert.
I got a hockey card of his somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, he passed at the age of 74. 25th overall pick for the Minnesota North Stars at 69. Played 69, 83 with the North Stars, Bruins, and Red Wings. Probably best known for playing with the Bruins. After Cheevers went to the WHL, he ended up being the goalie for that 73 team. Also was on the 79 team when they lost game 7 to the Montreal Canadiens after the infamous too many men penalty.
Yeah.
He the floor scored.
I was smiling just because I just remember something. I think it was.
What do you remember?
I think it was my mom. Yeah, I'm not sure because I think it was her collecting hockey cards. It was in 79, 80, right? So it's like so. I remember thinking as a kid. I don't know if I said that to her or one of my uncles because on my mom's side it's French Canadian, and it's like so I'm looking at my cards. So which one's that? It's Gillies Gilbert. They're looking at me like, no.
Yeah. That's that Stanley Cup series, by the way. Even though they lost that game, Gilbert won the player of the series, even though they lost the series. Basically, he stood on his head the whole series, the only reason it got as far as it did. So, but he passed at the age of 74. From the world of baseball, Jim Price, the catcher for the 68 World Series winning Tigers, passed away at the age of 81. Career 214 hitter in 5 seasons. But the catcher on that team also passing away. A member of the Florida State Hall of Fame, Ken Suarez, played with the Athletics, Indians, and Rangers, passed away at the age of 70. Oh, sorry, at the age of 80. Excuse me, I had the hiccups. At the age of 80. Everyone else, I think, is from music. Starting with,
did you see the pro wrestler though?
I did not see a pro wrestler.
Oh yeah, just a quick one. Exotic Adrian Street.
I don't think I saw that one.
Okay, so he passed away a week ago. He used to do a gimmick that obviously would not fly today, as you can sort of imagine from that name. He was legit son of a coal miner in Wales, like only like 5'7", if that, but barrel chest, and his gimmick was basically as a transvestite. That's what he called himself. So
yeah,
he'd even sort of like have that theme song. He was one of the few that would sort of like sing his entrance. One of them was I know I've got it wrong, but basically you're gonna get beat up by a transvestite.
Fantastic.
In the song. But a huge part of British wrestling, finally got into the United States when he was in his mid 40s. Mainly because he got blackballed, from what I understand, just from
the gimmick.
No. The 80s, no, they didn't. No, at that point, that they weren't thinking like that at all. Unfortunately, it's now if you were to, I mean, now there are openly gay wrestlers, nobody gives a crap.
Right.
Like zero. But back then, like that was basically like his gimmick was what is he? Because he also had his real life wife as his valet.
Oh, interesting.
So if you remember, I know you're not a big wrestling guy, but like with Goldust.
Yeah, I know Goldust.
Right. So when he had Marlena, again, his real life wife, but imagine that, but then he never broke the gimmick, broke the character.
Oh, okay.
So it was basically you're playing the mind fuck to your opponents, mind fuck to the crowd, and it worked then. He never said he was gay, never said he wasn't, but just overall a very important wrestler for his time, what he did in British wrestling. So pretty big deal for what he was. So I just wanted to bring that up.
I missed that one. I do miss him every once in a while.
I missed everything but 2 last time. So
well, one of the ones you did talk about last week, I had at the front here, is actually another actor. Pee Wee Herman passed away at the age of 70. Yeah. Paul Rubens.
I never, like Pee Wee Herman's like, so I guess because this is where our age difference might be a little
Yeah,
more.
I think this is one of those big age difference ones.
Yeah, because like he was really big in the '80s when like I'm, 'cause we're what 7 years, 8 years apart, I think. Seven? Like you're 42?
I'm 44, so 6.
44. Okay, well maybe 51. So seven.
Okay.
All right, so
6.5. Let's split the difference.
yeah, a touchdown.
There you go.
A possibly converted touchdown, depending on what month it is.
Sounds good. All right, continue.
Yeah. So with Pee Wee Herman, it's not that I disliked him like in the '80s. I just didn't get it. I think what bothered me more is just everyone doing that same like that just sort of got really repetitive with everyone.
Repetitive is the word of the day. Oh!
Yeah. Never watched the kitchen, but at that point I wasn't watching morning shows.
Right.
Did like Pee-wee's Big Adventure very much. I will say
Yes.
that. And after everything sort of blew up, I guess literally in a movie theater.
Right. And again, for those people who said that he was some sort of sexual predator, he was enjoying himself at a X-rated theater of all adults. There was no pedophilia. I saw a couple of those things online.
Yeah, which is kind of well,
Like, why did anyone care is the real question. So,
well that and that's what basically almost collectively a whole whack of people came to the conclusion thereof. And it's sort of hard to even imagine this because I didn't even know that existed back then because I don't know if there was anywhere in the town I grew up in. But there were theaters just or maybe there were, I don't know, dedicated towards just X-rated cinema.
mhm.
So but before you would bring your porn home, we'd bring it there, and which is sort of interesting that he'd even go out because like this was '89, right? So it's 10 years into the video cassette era, but whatever.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe it's one of those things he had picked up and enjoyed doing. So who knows? But
Really.
anyway, outside of that, every story I heard about him was how kind and generous and wonderful he was to pretty much
Yeah,
everybody.
yeah. And did you were you obviously you were alive? Do you remember when MTV pretty much brought him out and he opened up the MTV Music Awards?
Yes.
Yeah, and it was just pretty much heard any good jokes lately. Perfect. Perfect
Mhm.
way to sort of take care, like get in front of every scandal, and then it's like a collective, like, okay, what are we angry for?
Yeah,
And
that happens all the time.
yeah, and he was cast in a few things. He's excellent in the film Blow. Uh,
Mhm. Mystery
Buffy the
Men.
yeah, and that's not a great film, but he was great in it.
He was good in that movie.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Mhm.
I didn't realize he was that old because
I didn't either, but it makes sense.
he was 70, yeah. But his last thing that I guess was posted for him was just sorry he'd been out of the public eye for the last 6 years because nobody knew he was
Yeah.
sick. And good
Yep.
on him. And I may not have gotten your character too much, but I loved you as an actor.
Fair
So
enough.
yeah,
So, right. So now we're going to everything left is music here. So starting with actually not technically a music guy, but the guy who designed the Sex Pistols logo, Jamie Reed, passed away at the age of 76. So that's one of the
I love it when you find these ones.
basically. How do I find these ones?
No, I said I love it when you find these ones.
Oh, you love where I find
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
I mean, like album art used to be a really important thing. It's become much, much less important, but like Jamie Reed's I mean he did most of the work as Sex Pistols. He does some of the other ones as well. But like Jamie Reed's way of doing things almost represented the whole punk era.
Yeah.
Like he Roy Lichtenstein music and made it into the punk era is what if that makes sense. That was a really like that's the second time I've sounded like a complete utter snob in this thing. But
But it
Jamie
was a big
Reed's
deal.
yeah, Jamie Reed's stuff was awesome. And just it's really that's all I have to say. If you see it, you'll be like, oh yeah, I get it. But he was 76, so kind of the ransom note way of doing things, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
John, yeah, John Gosling, the keyboardist for the Kinks, uh,
Yeah.
passed away at the age of 75. So he was with them from 1970 to 1978, and then when they had a spin-off band of the Cast Off Kinks, he played with them for quite a while. but he retired in 2008, so he was 75 years old. Also passing away, Sixto Rodriguez. The Academy Award winning documentary film Searching for Sugar Man was about him. I don't know if you remember that one.
I don't know.
But he huge in probably bigger in South Africa than he was in the US. Had belated success here, but passed away at the age of 81. Then I guess three fairly big names here. DJ Casper passed away. Guy who created the Cha-Cha Slide.
Oh, okay.
Passed away at the age of 58 from kidney and liver cancer. But a wedding staple. His actual name was William Perry Jr. He passed away at 58. Then passing away, they're still touring without him, as far as I can tell. Randy Meisner of the Eagles passed away at the age of 77. Probably best known for "Take It to the Limit" that he wrote and sang the leads on. It's always interested me because, like, the Beatles were sometimes, you could tell Paul and John apart, but sometimes it was Ringo or George singing. It was hard to tell that it wasn't one of the other guys. It sounded a little bit off.
I thought that was Don Henley.
No, yeah, that's what everyone thought it was. No, it's Randy Meisner.
Look at what I learned today. Holy crap.
Yeah. So he was a bass player and the main backing vocalist or he's a backing high harmony guy. So whenever there's a high note in the background, that was Randy. But he passed away. I'm sorry. He also joined. Trying to think what he did afterwards. He was with the band Black Tie with Jimmy Griffin of Bread and Billy Swan. He did, like, there's a whole bunch of stuff he did overall, but he passed away at the age of 77. So he had COPD. And lastly, the biggest name who passed away this week, definitely Robbie Robertson of the Canadian legend.
Absolutely.
Member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, member of the Canadian Music Hall of Fame, 59th on Rolling Stone's 100 Greatest Guitarists. Wrote the three most important songs the band ever did: "The Wait," "The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down," and "Up on Cripple Creek."
It's and like you said, a pretty big deal in Canada. I think especially too, not far, because again, growing up in the Toronto area, Robbie Robertson was born in Toronto but raised in Six Nations, which isn't that far from that. So pretty much all his initial roots really were based in Ontario. I don't know if you're that familiar with. This guy's sort of, I don't know if he's so much a Canadian legend or just, I guess he's ours, and that's Rompin' Ronnie Hawkins. I don't know if you know that name.
Yeah.
Okay. So for those who don't, Rompin', like back before a lot of Canadian artists really made it in the United States or really anywhere else, they were mostly just like national people. Rompin' Ronnie was a pretty big deal in Canada. Didn't really do that much outside of it, but he was, from what I understand, Hawkins took him under his wing, became a member of the Hawks, which is where he met Levon Helm and some of the other members who would form the band, and then they would sort of do some work with Dylan, and then they had their breakout when really the world was ready for them. Robertson also had a pretty solid solo career, and that again got a lot of airplay when I was a kid, because his first solo album, which is amazingly didn't come out until 87. And because the band broke up in 78, he was doing just, I guess, whatever he wanted. I didn't realize until he passed how much he did with Scorsese. I did not know that at all.
I mean, that started The Last Waltz.
Yeah, but I guess but he kept him. I guess they kept in contact because he was the music producer in Scorsese's films just almost like right after, because Last Waltz came out in 78, and so he was producing music for Raging Bull and King of Comedy, which I believe were 81 and 80 respectively. I might have my years wrong, but I'm not too far off. And he did stuff with Casino and Wolf of Wall Street he had a credit on. If my favorite solo song, if anyone wants to go look back and listen to it, I listened to it, re-listened to it a few times recently. I think today actually. "Showdown on Big Sky" from his first album. He
That's
also,
a good song.
yeah, he also does a really good song album, just where songs for the Native Americans. 92.
Mhm.
Actually, I bought
90,
that for
it was 90, it was 94. I saw
for-
something on that earlier.
I bought that for my mom because
Oh, nice.
my mom, it's her birthday tomorrow. She it would be the first birthday without her. She would have been 80. And yeah, she just loved her music. Here in Winnipeg, they've got something called Folkorama, and
Okay.
where they've got different ethnic pavilions sort of going on, like in different places. So we went to the Brazilian one, and so it was just like an hour, well, only 40 minutes. But it was fun. She would have loved that. Just been thinking about her a lot uh, this week, and
Yeah.
yeah, just with that, I remembered that because I maybe one of the few people who bought my mom CDs, but I did because she just loved that stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
I I will say Dan Kelly had a great tweet of the last waltz with the death of Robbie Robertson.
Mhm.
We're down to the last 12 living people from the last waltz. And
Oh,
it's a pretty interesting list. So Garth Hudson is the last surviving member of the band from
okay.
there. Eric Clapton, Neil Diamond, Bob Dylan, Emmylou Harris, Joni Mitchell, Van Morrison, Mavis Staples, Ringo Starr, Stephen Stills, Ronnie Wood, and Neil Young. That's a pretty crazy lineup of people
When
in
it's at
general.
Scorsese, you got your 13.
No, I mean, no, just the performers.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
The other people too. But I mean, there are 12 remaining performers from that group. So
Mm.
kind of amazing. Anyway, so that's everybody I got.
Almost as good as the last polka with the Schmengi brothers, who get no love in the fictitious Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I don't know
It
why.
should.
They really
They should.
should. They should. I just saw recently. I don't know why I go on these old David Letterman rabbit holes where they were in character as guests promoting the last polka. That first few years of Letterman was so great. All right, so I guess now this time, what's up next is Elevator Up, Elevator Down.
Elevator up, elevator down.
And this is where I say who in the last week has made a case elevator up and who's made a case for elevator down for their respective halls of fame. I got two. They're both elevator downs, unfortunately. One in baseball, it's Tim Anderson. You are going to be known mostly. Not,
It's not even elevator down. It's just elevator collapsed directly on his back.
oh my God, yeah. Tim Anderson's an interesting person. I think the last time I talked about him on the show was when he had a beef with Josh Donaldson, and because Josh Donaldson, he caused sort of like a beef there because he was ribbing him because Anderson said that he wanted to be the activist like Jackie Robinson, which you can't.
Right.
So he kept calling him Jackie, and that sort of set him off. Anderson took that racially, which Donaldson, I don't know if it was or wasn't. It's not a good look, regardless, especially in this era. But either way, but Tim Anderson has a history of having a short fuse and saying sometimes dumb things.
Mm-hmm.
So he got into it with Jose Ramirez. I did not realize short Jose Ramirez was.
He's very short.
I didn't realize that. I never really put that together. So Ramirez does a slide, and Anderson just goes under his legs, and Anderson just stays there. So I don't know if they had beef before. I was waiting to see if something came out, but they probably do because Anderson's got beef with a lot of people. I think I'd bet on that. I don't know for sure. Well, he gets up. Ramirez puts his finger in his face, like basically, what the hell are you doing? And Anderson is he ready to throw down? And he lost.
Are you
And
sure?
I sure, well, Bill Simmons put it best that he thinks that the first time that anyone's ever got knocked out in a baseball fight since Mickey Rivers did that to Bill Spaceman Lee. And you probably saw that
Yeah.
too.
Like
And
even Robert Ventura didn't get knocked out, and that's the
no,
thing people remember about his career.
well, that's the thing, right? And that they actually, I was somewhere, and I was laughing to myself. I think I was just working somewhere because I just needed to get out of here because sometimes the dogs drive me nuts, and then Pauline will say, just, I live over a couple bars, just like go there, work for an hour, and then come back. And I'm looking up, and it's the 30th anniversary of that. And then I'm looking at I'm looking at it now because I haven't looked at that fight in so long. And really,
Mhm.
it's more embarrassing because he goes to charge him, and like, Nolan just gets him in a headlock, and he gets no clean, really good shots in it all. It didn't matter. It's the headlock and it's the visual of the 45-year-old man putting a headlock on a young all-star. And it didn't
Mhm.
matter what Robin Ventura ever did. He had over 2,000 hits. Is he still a manager now? I don't know.
Robert Ventura.
Yeah, he was a manager at one point. Okay, it doesn't matter what he accomplishes.
Mhm.
Like he could get a role as manager of, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what team. Win 5 straight World Series, and on the first thing after he dies is Robin Ventura passed away. First known for getting his ass kicked by Nolan Ryan.
And it's just crazy because Robert Ventura was a very good baseball player.
He's ranked on my baseball 300 of people to think about.
Mm-hmm. Six-time Gold Glover, somehow only a two-time All-Star. He was manager of the White Sox from 2012 to 2016.
Okay, all right. So has over 2,000 hits, I think, and he's only going to be remembered mostly for that. Tim Anderson, same thing now. And I don't know what the voters think because the voters don't have a blanket idea. We know this. They all sort of have different points of view, and thankfully, some of them share it.
Mm-hmm.
If this is going to be your legacy, and it is, Tim Anderson will be more known for. He could reach 2,500 hits. I don't think he will, but and he's a good player, which is really a shame. He is a very good player whose last year has not been good, mainly due to injuries and just not being able to keep his composure. And he got knocked out from a punch that when I keep looking at it over and over. It doesn't even look like
it just hit him on the side of the chin. It looked like it missed, but it got him clear right on the side of the chin and forced it back.
But there's the weird thing: his head didn't even snap back much. But then I watched the John Boy bit where they're carrying him off, and he's like rubber legged. It's like, holy crap!
Yeah, it depends where you get hit. You get hit in the jaw. And some people have a glass jaw. By the way, Robin Ventura has 1,885 hits.
Oh, I thought he had over 2,000. Okay. What's Tim Anderson at?
We'll double check that.
Okay. Also, I imagine while you're checking that out, if you're Tim Anderson, your psyche or your ego, and I don't know how big an ego he's got. I just know that he's a bit of a head case. I can't even imagine.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even imagine how he's thinking right now. Because that's
Tim Anderson does not have nearly as many hits as I thought he does.
Oh, really? Okay, what does he have?
987 at this point.
How old is he?
30.
Ah, okay. So
he came in the season with 900 hits. He has 87 so far this year.
Okay, all right. So I thought he had a better overall. Okay, but either way, Tim Anderson, and that might even affect, like, I guess he's not getting in the Baseball Hall of Fame, I suppose. Anyway, but maybe in terms of how he's going to be looked at in terms of the Chicago White Sox and how they honor players.
I mean, he'll get in the White Sox Hall of Fame, I imagine.
I don't know. So I hope if that happens, I hope Jose gives the speech. Now, my biggest elevator down, and it's not a pun. This is my biggest elevator down since when we did Joel Quenneville. The former head coach. You brought up the Kyle Beach situation, and Quenneville is, I believe, still has the most wins of any hockey coach. And he will not be considered for the Hockey Hall of Fame. And this also might be a great segue too, because it's also why I asked if you're going to be talking about the United States women's team. And I imagine that some of that will be sort of the political reactions to that. This sort of plays in on the opposite side, and that's Lizzo.
Okay.
She is elevated down for virtually every musical Hall of Fame that's going right now. She is in massive trouble, and I'm sure you've heard what's going on with her.
Honestly, not that much.
You haven't heard that much?
No, I haven't. It hasn't crossed my field of view. I don't know. I don't
Okay.
pay much attention. So
All right. So basically, I'll bring it up here and I'll try to make it as succinct as possible. So she's being sued by 3 of her former dancers.
okay.
And I'm going to read this from Vox because I can pretty much do that a little bit better. I'm going to go through this as best I can. So, brought on by plaintiffs Crystal Williams, Ariana Davis, and Noel Rodriguez, alleges 9 areas of misconduct related to their experience on Lizzo's special tour. The claims are also made against Cheyenne Quigley, who is the head, the dance captain, Big Girl, Big Touring Company, and there's a few other defendants here, but really it's mostly towards those because that's all that really matters here. From what I almost want to put on my damn reading glasses here, and I'm not going to do it because I should what they look like, and I refuse. I refuse.
Come on, Edna.
Hmm?
Come on, Edna.
And it's Pauline's fault because she was the one who sort of made me do that to you.
Anyway, continue.
Okay, let's see. So basically, what it was, the allegations made against all 3 defendants include a hostile work environment that featured sexual harassment, a failure to prevent or remedy sexual harassment in the workplace, and a failure to prevent or remedy religious harassment in the workplace. There's a few other things there. So sexual harassment specifically. From what I can understand, Cheyenne Quigley, the dance captain, is an interesting person. Apparently born again, but one of those born agains who really don't act like they're born again. Now we know Lizzo is a very sexual person. Fine, who cares? But what we do know for sure is that on this tour they went to a club called Bananas in Amsterdam, and which made a few of them really uncomfortable because that involved some of the workers there. Well, let's just say that they were encouraged to eat bananas out of a certain orifice.
I get it. Yeah.
That's not even maybe not even necessarily the worst part of this. They felt bullied. They were said they were basically fired because they were not necessarily playing along. But the worst words coming out here was just that whole toxic environment that they say that she caused. What took down Ellen the first time? It was her coming out. And a lot of people on the right sort of had an issue with that. A few years later, that she had probably, I don't know, maybe the most successful talk show host in daytime history.
I mean, Oprah.
Ah, okay. Oprah wasn't really, yeah, okay, sorry. In the last 20 years, sorry, you're right. You're in Chicago, you think of Oprah, I don't know.
Okay, I'll give you the last 20.
Okay. What took her down the second time?
I'm a human, I think.
What took her down the second time was when pretty much people found out that she wasn't as nice as she claimed to be. And the whole thing of the toxic environment was coming out. So Ellen pretty much she's going to cancel her show anyway, but she won't be she's not going to be working again. She got enough money, won't need to, but her reputation is destroyed. And some of these dancers also then sort of came out and said that she had issues with them putting on weight. So wait a minute, the person sort of like bringing all this positive
of all the things.
Yeah. So you hear this, and like I like Lizzo's music, but I don't.
She's all about the treble, not the bass.
Like her Instagram handle is literally Lizzo be eating. If you don't know what her brand is, it's obviously that she's a big girl and she wants to empower large Black women, but apparently not. Part of the allegations also was on a racial platform, saying that the white tour managers were worse to the Black dancers as opposed to the white dancers. Now, this is all under her umbrella. Now, what really sort of set things off for me, because again, I don't know. She said So I'm going to read you something from, what's her name? Okay, so her name's Sophia Nahil Allison. I apologize if I'm getting the middle name wrong. She was hired to do Lizzo's Netflix documentary. So this is what she said after this all came out. I usually do not comment on anything pop culture related, but in 2019, I traveled with Lizzo to be the director of her documentary. I walked away after about 2 weeks. I was treated with such disrespect by her. I witnessed how arrogant, self-centered, and how unkind she is. I was not protected and was thrown into a shitty situation with little support. My spirit said to me, run as fast as you fucking can. And I'm so grateful that I trusted my gut. Let me scroll down here because it's more. Lizzo creates an extremely toxic and hostile work environment and undermines the work, labor, and authority of other Black and brown women in the process. In parentheses, notice how the documentary ended up being directed by a cis white man. Sophia is Black. I'm assuming she's part of the LGBT community. I don't know. It's not.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe it's relevant. Maybe it's not. I don't know. She is a narcissistic bully and has built her brand off of lies. I was excited to support and protect a Black woman through the documentary process, but quickly learned her image and message was a curated facade. I stand with the dancers and everyone else who had similar experiences working with her and her team. These working conditions are not okay. I bring this up because this is now an outside person corroborating that. And today, 6 other dancers came out and said the same thing.
Oh, good.
So now we have somebody who, what is she? If this is her brand, I'm here to empower Black women. I'm here to empower large women. I'm here to help the LGBT, because she was like pretty much right there in the center of that in Tennessee, I believe, right after when they had. I don't know this much, so apologies if I'm getting this wrong. But right after that, I think they had a drag queen ban or something, and so she had her response when she performed in Tennessee was to have a lot of drag queens on stage. So it makes you wonder, well, does she really support that, or is she playing along to that? Since this has happened, I was sort of looking to see if anyone really supported her. Not a whole hell of a lot. Grimes is the only musician I could find. Now, she's married to Elon Musk, or was not married, was attached to Elon. Sorry. So take that for what you will. And I don't really know what I'm saying with that other than that. And all the other big names in music haven't said anything. Nothing. Not a goddamn thing. She was set to headline a festival in Philadelphia with SZA. That got canceled. She's lost over 200,000 Instagram followers. The right wing, because I'm one of those rare guys, I'll listen to what the right and the left have to say, come up with my own conclusion. The right just mentioned it, and then they didn't mention it again because they're not listening to Lizzo anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It's the left that's keeping it going, and that's her base. It's like if you go into a Lizzo concert, I think your straw poll would be 95-5 Democrat. Went to an MMA fight, it'd be 95-5 Republican. Fair?
Mm-hmm. Probably.
Yeah. So why I think she's in massive trouble is it's one thing if the right say they're not going to watch The View. Don't matter, The View's got their people watching anyway. Right. She's being turned on by her own people because they don't know they feel betrayed. Because what do we hate more? Whether you're on any wing or anything, you hate someone who's a hypocrite or a liar, and you hate getting fooled. And this is bad. This is really, really bad.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you recover from this. I have no clue. She did put a statement which pretty much was like, I'm really disappointed, blah, blah, just typical public speak. I'm not really saying that I didn't do it. This is about as big an elevator down, I think. And I'm not trying to say that to make a pun here. I'm not, but
okay.
This is bad. This is really bad. And if Instagram is a currency and okay, she still has over 13 million, but it is. And she's gone on radio silence. where do you go from here? How do you rebuild this? Because even the people, like I mentioned, The View, Sonny Hostin said, I believe it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know. I don't know what happens. And Beyonce hasn't said nothing. Apparently, she did one. There's a song that she does where she mentions all very important African American women and I forget the name of the song, and doesn't really matter. But Lizzo was usually one of it, and in the back they would sort of like have that play.
Mm-hmm.
Last time she was removed from it,
Interesting.
and her mom said like, don't read anything into it. Just sometimes she changes the words, and I thought okay. And then I saw the video. Wait, okay, they actually have the names behind, so they know who she's going to say.
Mm-hmm.
So that's calculated.
Mm-hmm.
So Beyonce doesn't have her back. I'm assuming I didn't see anything. I was looking to see if maybe Nicki Minaj said anything. Cardi B, nothing, zero. Because maybe they know something else that we don't know. That this shit's true.
Could be.
So that's a pretty big elevator down. I don't know. I'm very fascinated to see where this goes from here. Still like a lot of her songs. I was never invested in her as a person anyway. So, but I imagine that there's a lot of, and I've watched a lot of Instagram things of people just heartbroken. So that's my elevator.
All right. Cool. So I guess we're to the bad, the ugly, and the good here. To end. I will say I'm gonna put
2 weeks to go with.
Yeah, I'm gonna put a storm warning in here too. This is bad-ish for now. I wanted to talk more about the U.S. women's soccer team, but
Okay.
the stuff going at Northwestern is still going on. The players and coaches are wearing shirts that had Fitzgerald's number on it, Pat Fitzgerald, the old coach's number on it, as a sign of support. It says Cats Against the World, number 51, which is after he got fired. I guess a show of support for him, but he got fired for ignoring hazing allegations. So I'm not sure how I feel about this whole thing. The AD said that there's tone deaf. The new interim head coach said that he was going to stop anyone's free speech. We'll see where it goes, but Northwestern football is walking a very interesting tightrope at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm putting that on storm watch for now. It could be real bad coming up, but I'm going to leave it as it is at the moment. I just wanted to mention it.
Yeah.
I want to spend more time with the U.S. women's national team. I don't want to. This is not here to rip Megan Rapinoe or any of the other folks. I will say the coach needs to be fired.
He was.
They played much better against Sweden than they did against the Netherlands or against Portugal. But that is damning them with faint praise. This is a team that's been swashbuckling. We're the best, whatever. And apparently, according to the Netherlands, they're talking about the finals already while they're playing the Netherlands in the second game.
Right.
And that was part of the problem. But part of that is coaching again. Like he was not nipping in the bud. You know, the whole Bill Belichick one game at a time situation.
Did he feel that maybe he couldn't? Because this is Megan's team.
I mean, it is Megan's team, but
that's her culture. When did he get hired?
After the last World Cup.
Okay, so and again, I've said my things on Megan. I'm not a fan of hers. I respect the hell out of what she's done as a player. I question her activism, how committed she is, and how much she's more committed to the dollar. Saying that,
I get that.
Yeah, saying that, I mean, like anyone who says she's not on the Mount Rushmore of women's soccer, and that's not just the U.S. You're lying to yourself.
Yeah, that's crazy. But this has been a weird tournament anyway. Germany got out in the first round. Brazil got out, never made the semifinals.
Canada didn't get through.
And didn't get through. Who else? There's another one who didn't get through. So it's been an interesting tournament so far. I
If I
will
didn't
say
have
this.
rooting interest, and I said this a lot when you were when Glenn was there, that was my good because I tried to do your good, bad, and ugly, right? So
Mhm.
I was saying like because that was before that sort of the U.S. Was eliminated, but there's a lot less patsies.
Or there are way less. So I mean,
Yeah.
this is the
That's
first women's
clearly
World Cup. This is the first women's World Cup with 32 teams. They went from 24 to 32, and people are like, oh well, that's not gonna make it. Now only one of those eight new teams, because they're 8 debutante teams, right? There are 8 teams that never made the World Cup before. Only one of them, Morocco. Morocco has had a pretty good year in soccer. Only one of them made it to the round of 16, but like the women's game that hardly ever happens. Even Vietnam played decently well for a couple of games. Jamaica played really well. Haiti played well. Like,
what money do they have?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Federations are finding they get a lot more bang for their buck putting money into the women's game necessarily than they're going to put into the men's game.
Yeah, but still, I mean, like it was, and I've said this before, I'll say it again. I love watching women's soccer because there's no diving, there's none of that shit I hate the most that turns me off of that game. And yes, obviously, I'm very disappointed in Team Canada, very disappointed, but I have been staying. I want to stay up a lot anyway, but I've been watching a lot. I've been watching a hell of a lot.
Yeah. I will say this though, they lost because they went woke stuff, just go away. I'm sorry. Like they lost because they had bad tactics and were overconfident. The fact they stood for something had very little to do with it.
Let's also be blunt. Megan shouldn't have been on this team.
That's true, but this was her going away thing. I get it.
It may, yeah, but then maybe you don't play.
I mean, Marta shouldn't have been on the Brazilian team either.
Sure.
But again, it was her going away. This is Megan and Marta's last bow on the stage.
Well, she I don't want to say old, but she's broken down. She's obviously hurt. She was not accurate this whole tournament. She's not her at all. And let's also be blunt. She's unfocused.
That may be true.
So,
That may be. So,
I get why you do that, but
yeah, I just want to say again, missing wide right on her last penalty shot. I had a couple of say, "How do you miss a penalty shot?" And I'm like, everybody misses a penalty shot every once in a while. She just missed one at a bad time.
I consider Roberto Baggio.
Roberto Baggio, 94.
Yeah. I was thinking a lot of him.
Yeah. It happens. Like she's hit that thing 90% of the time in her career, but 90% of the time still means you miss 1 out of 10.
I think I get their point why they're saying that, and a lot it is a turnoff when you're looking at everyone else sort of singing the national anthem and half of them don't. And I get that.
Time out. Most of the people who are complaining they don't sing the national anthem don't know the
They're
words.
watching.
They don't know the words national anthem. They like all the Trump supporters. Trump doesn't know the words national anthem. He's tried singing before and doesn't know them. Like, what are we talking about? The vast majority, like saying silent for the national anthem, is respectful.
I'm not. I'm just saying why people are turned off by it.
This is Obama's tan suit. They're trying to come up with reasons to be upset.
Sure. I'm not even saying you're wrong, but when you see everyone else doing it and you see your players don't, it is off-putting to some people. It is.
Okay. Cool.
Now, as for the whole go woke, go broke, no, it's just it was bad coaching. Megan shouldn't have been there.
Agreed. And they were super overconfident. They're like, oh, we're gonna get through this without any problem. We're gonna have any problem with Portugal. They messed around. I watched the whole game with Vietnam. They messed around most of that game. They won 3-0, but they messed around. They should have won 6-7 to nothing in that game.
I think my turn off, and we can sort of keep politics out of it, right? Because again, I'm just trying to tell you what I'm reading now. I can see how it's a turn off, but having said that, a lot of the people who were turned off by it, again, they weren't watching it anyway.
100%. Yeah.
So I will say,
like I said, the vast majority of the people are concerned about athletes, transgender athletes, or women's sports don't watch women's sports.
that's why I make sure that I'm not a hypocrite and I do watch women's sports.
I do watch it. So
I do.
but anyway, I just want to go into that a little bit. It wasn't good. he's got to get fired. Fantastic. They also had a lot of young kids in play, but I mean, the game against the Netherlands, they have 5 subs. He used 1. Like they
My,
clearly need a different energy.
you know, my red flag, and this is where some people were pointing out, and unfortunately, again, it was amplified by again people who weren't watching it. They just saw it after. Was after they tied, and Carly Lloyd
Mhm.
is essentially laid out like, "Why are you celebrating?"
Yeah, against Portugal when they were like 3 inches away from losing Portugal at the post.
Right, and it was a crossbar that is, or a goal or a
It's a post.
A post. Thank
It's
you.
a post like
Right.
in the 90th minute.
Yes. So I mean, they were fortunate to be there, and it gave me vibes of the only year I got Raptors season tickets, and
Mhm.
that was the year after they went to the quarters, and Vince Carter missed that one shot that against the Sixers, who went on to win, or not win, but win the conference, and they got destroyed by LA because everyone was going to get destroyed by LA.
Mhm.
And I was doing okay, so I got seasons that year, and then they picked up Olajuwon, and I'm thinking, well, I still got something left.
He didn't.
Uh, but they were celebrating because I was at that last game where they just had to win to make the playoffs, and they were playing New Jersey, who were already in, and they put their starters down by the second half, and then they're all celebrating, and like, what are you celebrating for? You so underperformed. Like, just this is nothing to be proud of at
Mhm.
this point. The way you squeaked into the playoffs because you were playing a team that just didn't want to get hurt,
Yeah. Right.
and like, stop your celebrating. This is embarrassing. And I got the same vibe watching this. Like,
I get it.
yeah,
No, I get it. I get it. So anyway, it wasn't a good ending for the U.S. women's national team. I'm kind of glad it happened. The odds they were going to win 3 in a row wasn't very high anyway. Just by the way, as we've been speaking, Spain just finished off the Netherlands. So the Netherlands is out as well. Um, but
yeah. This would have been the game that they would have been on prime time.
correct.
Yeah, because
Yes,
they were.
they're expecting it.
Yeah.
But had the U.S. is gone. If Sweden can beat Japan, which I think is a decent chance, although Japan is like the best of all the teams in the tournament, we will have a new champion in soccer because Japan's the only one who's left. And I will say the one person out of this whole thing I do feel badly for is Alexander Pope out of Germany, who was one-handedly trying to will her country to the next round and just couldn't quite do it. She was amazing, awesome, and her team. I know it's going on with the German Federation, both on the men's and women's side. They're failing miserably though at the moment. Yeah, all props to her though. A team that underperformed went on the first round. It was not their best player's fault. So I will say that. All right. So I guess my ugly. What can I say about NCAA conferences like hasn't been said about Afghanistan?
I was doing one in your honor again. I was talking about that. I didn't see that.
I didn't see that. Well, I actually had we done this last week, we decided not to because there wasn't much news. My thing was going to be, I was going to say within 24 hours we will not have a Pac-12. Was going to be the thing I said, and it was actually it would have been like 9 hours after we finished. They need to spin football off from all the rest of the sports.
I'd agree.
They should spin football off and do promotion and relegation, and have all the teams do it that way, and just put everything back because like there are some legitimate things like, hey, I softball players in the Pac-12. I picked softball and I picked the Pac-12 because I'm from California and my parents could go to games without having to travel across the country. The ACC right now is debating whether bringing in Cal and Stanford.
And the sad thing is that's probably their best option if they want to stay relevant.
If they want to stay relevant, right? Or bring in UConn. I don't understand why they don't bring in UConn, but UConn will help. But like, if not, the Mountain West is going to pick up Oregon State, Washington State, and at least Cal. Stanford may go independent. Was what they're talking about.
That might be not bad for Stanford, but
I don't know what they're going to do. But like,
yeah,
like the best thing about college sports was the local rivalries, right? Like I grew up in Boston. We don't care about college sports. We cared about college basketball in the Big East in the 80s. We were not a real big part of it, But when we played St. John's, when we played Villanova, when we played Georgetown, when we played Syracuse, it freaking mattered. Connecticut wasn't a thing then. Connecticut became a thing in the 1990s. We didn't really care about Connecticut. Providence, we cared about because it was close, right? Like in Boston College and Providence still play quite a playoff every year, but like that was a thing. It was a local everything. It was amazing, and now they destroyed it, and they've destroyed it, and they've destroyed it, and they keep destroying it in the name of the almighty dollar. But like Kansas and Missouri, the border war was one of the greatest rivalries ever. Every single year, it was important to the people there. They destroyed it, right? Oklahoma and Oklahoma State are not in the same league anymore. Oregon State, Washington State. Like,
Yeah.
like there are tons of these rivalries. Like the Big Ten is talking about maybe grabbing Florida State and Clemson. Like we're gonna have a normal Big Ten game between USC and Rutgers, like those traditional rivals. So I mean, if that were a ESPN game in college basketball, Rutgers and USC, nobody would watch. Like, what are we doing here?
I think I was gonna say, like, if you would have told me 5 years ago, all right, the Pac-12 is done, but the Sun Belt still exists.
Yeah,
So just screw off. Like, there's no way that's possible.
Can I give some praise to the MAC? The MAC has had the same teams in
MAC
it
knows
since
who they are.
like since the 1960s. Like the MAC is like Central Michigan, Eastern Michigan, Western Michigan, Kent State, Miami of Ohio, Bowling Green, Akron,
Buffalo.
Toledo. What? Buffalo, and I left somebody out.
Oh no, Marshall left.
No, I left. There's somebody I left out. I apologize, whoever I left out.
Do you get Akron?
I did Akron and Dayton. I can't remember. Well, Dayton moved to the A10.
I don't know.
But anyway, there are a couple I've missed. I apologize, but it's like the same league. They know who they are. It matters to Bowling Green when they're playing Western Michigan. It just does. Does it matter to the rest of the country? No, but it matters to them, and it will get 60, 70,000.
Falcons.
Yeah, my wife is a Falcon.
I know, that's why I said that.
Yeah. If you ever, by the way, if you're ever on Bowling Green's campus, I don't usually send this out. You must go to Campus Poly Eyes and have their breadsticks. That's all I'm going to say.
I ran around their football field.
Your stomach will thank me later. It is whenever we drive east, we stop there just to have lunch. Just so you know, it's fantastic. It's some of the best food in the country. Campus Poly Eyes in Bowling Green, Ohio, and the beer is cheap. Yeah. But this whole thing, like the NCAA must die. It has to go. It just has to go. They can have each of the sports in their own whatever thing they're going to do, but it has to die. Take the big schools and put them in whatever the conference they want. Have a promotion relegation thing so Boise State can replace, I don't know, I'll just pick one, Purdue, at some point when things are going like, and then the schools, Stanford's already lost, right? If Vanderbilt and Boston College and Notre Dame think that they're special, Stanford's out, and Stanford's more special. Notre Dame's different, but Stanford's more special than Vanderbilt or BC. Like, and
there's some other things, right? I mean, look at the schools that are actually in power. Well, it's not even a power 5 anymore. It's a power 4, I guess.
Yeah, Iowa State. Who cares about Iowa State? It's just on their campus. It's fantastic.
Other than Iowa. And that's one-sided, right?
By the way, Iowa State's field is named, I can't think of it right now. It's named after the first African-American player in their history in the 1920s who actually died on the field. And they named the stadium after him.
Why are you doing that?
Yeah. Because we were there last month. But it's a disaster. They just need to end it. And all these people are complaining about players getting paid. Fuck you.
No, I'm not complaining. Jack Trice.
What?
Jack Trice.
Jack Trice. That's right. He died on the field against Purdue in 1920 something. But it was an African-American player. the stadium's been named after him ever since. I'm like, who the heck's Jack Trice? I was like, oh, Iowa, who knew? But
some of the research I've been doing, though, they're further ahead than a lot of states you'd think about in schools.
that is true.
Yeah.
That is true. But like, just end it. Get rid of it. It's gone. Like, let the schools do whatever they're going to do, destroy whatever they are, get all the money they're going to do. I mean, this whole thing was just Pac-12 waited to get their TV deal. Big 12 jumped them in line. Nobody had the money for it. And the whole thing fell apart. It's dumb.
It's not like the tea leaves weren't already there to be read. How did they not? If you didn't see this coming,
of course, we've all seen it coming. It's dumb.
Right. So it's just how. Oh man, I mean, so it's really interesting to see, like, because they were going to try to pick the bones of the Mountain West, and
Mountain West is going to be fine.
Absolutely. I mean, Mountain West could. That's probably their best thing. I was reading an article. They say that the ones that are going to be hurt the most are the ones who went to for women's basketball, which is a pretty solid program. A lot of them, I think, especially on the West Coast. And that's the most fascinating thing. Like, it's the California schools that are getting decimated. That's what happened.
I know.
Never would have thought that in a million.
I mean, and the Pac-12 didn't make the moves they needed to make. They needed to get San Diego State. They needed to get UNLV. They needed to get the schools from the Mountain West who actually were in major markets to lock stuff up, and they didn't do it. And here we are. They need to get Boise State. I know Boise State is a major market, but they're a really good football team, and people watch for the Smurf turf. Like, they're a good enough team.
It's not like everything wasn't laid out by the over-aggression, I guess correct aggression, however you want to look at it, of the SEC and the Big Ten. It was there. We were watching it happen.
But we thought the Big 12 5 years ago, the Big 12 looked like they were done. Missouri went to the SEC. Like, Texas A&M went to the SEC. Texas and Oklahoma were going to the SEC, and they're like, oh, cool, go ahead. We're just going to replace them with Arizona State, and Colorado. Cool, you're fine. Bye. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. And they survived. I can't believe that Kansas and Kansas State have survived, where Cal and Stanford, like, no offense to Washington State and Oregon State, but they are much smaller.
They're good at minimal times.
Correct. They're much. I mean, Oregon State is ranked right now in the preseason poll for college football.
Well, they're basically Northwestern. Northwestern is like every now and then, like, what they made it to the Rose Bowl. Oh, there is a thing, right? So what on the years where I guess they're not part of the national championship, I guess that tie-in is done.
Yeah, well, someone said that the Big Ten should have a East and a West division, and the winners just play in the Rose Bowl every year.
It's not even. That makes more sense now.
Just pick up Cal and Stanford, and then the winners play in the Pro Bowl every year, or in the winner. So add Nebraska and like Iowa State to the West, and then you have 8-8 and go from there. We'll see what happens, but it is disastrous. I gave up on watching college football as a real thing 15 years ago. I just didn't care. Last I really cared was when Matt Ryan was a quarterback at the Boston College. To give you an idea how long it's been. I care a little bit about college basketball. That's fallen by the wayside a little bit as well. Baseball this whole year has fallen by the wayside. Although I do have to say I do enjoy Mr. Acuna down in Atlanta a bunch. Maybe the greatest leadoff hitter season ever that anyone's had this year.
Currently second place in the official, not in Hall of Fame, big MLB standings.
It's legitimately, it's almost definitely so far the greatest season any leadoff hitter has ever had in the history of Major League Baseball. The only one you can compare at this point is Rickey Henderson in 1990. And if you're old enough to remember Rickey Henderson in 1990, Rickey Henderson in 1990 was a force of nature. I don't even know how to explain Rickey Henderson in 1990.
The beautiful thing there, Evan, is if Rickey Henderson would say, let me tell you about Rickey Henderson in 1990. It's in the same way.
So there was a post this week that someone had a picture of John Olerud on Twitter, and someone said, "What do you remember about this player?" And I don't think I actually put it up there, but I thought to myself more than Ricky Henderson does. So
Well, tell people why that if they haven't heard.
So Ricky Henderson and John Olerud played together in the Blue Jays at one point in their career.
Briefly in the
And
90s.
they both went their separate ways, and then they both ended up in the Red Sox in 1995, 96,
I thought it was
97.
the Yankees.
No, they both ended up in the Red Sox.
Red Sox.
And they John Olerud went out to first base still wearing, because he always wore a batting helmet when he was in the field. He didn't wear a baseball cap. So he went out to first base. And Rick Anderson said, I used to play with a guy who did that too. And it was John Olerud.
I think it even got better because, yeah, that was me. Like, no.
I don't remember that part. But yeah, he had no recollection that he had ever played with John Olerud before. John Olerud, until actually when he was with the Red Sox, he had a rehab assignment. They sent him down to the minor leagues. That's the only time he was in the minors his entire career.
Right to the majors.
He went right to the majors. There aren't that many guys who do that ever anymore. But he had a rehab assignment with the Red Sox. He went to the minor leagues for the first time in his 14th season for like a week of rehab. So,
phenomenal player. Like his best year was that World Series year.
Yep. So anyway, so let's just get to the good, and we're gonna stick with baseball, but in a different way.
Oh, okay.
One of my favorite events of the year is happening right now. The Little League World Series regionals are happening. And I want to give some love to my Massachusetts team didn't make it through this year. I want to give some love to the team that beat them 2-1. This town of Gray, Maine. Now, Gray, Maine sounds like an adjective for the whole city, for the whole place. But Gray, Maine has a population. It's been booming over the last few years. Its population has gone all the way up to 8,000 people. It is just outside of Portland. Its population for most of my life, because I've been there a couple times, it was in like I guess it was 5,000, but for most of its history, it was like the less than 2,000 person range. It's up to 8,000 people now. I know it best because it's one of the few places where you can see a Confederate flag in a military cemetery in the north. So Gray, Maine gave more soldiers to the Union Army per capita than any other city in Maine. And after the war was over, a Confederate body was accidentally shipped to Gray, Maine instead of to wherever it was supposed to be shipped. And not knowing what to do with the body, they ended up burying it in the cemetery and it says stranger on the gravestone. And they gave him full whatever honor. So there's like 55 Union soldiers and 1 Confederate soldier buried in that thing. But if you drive through Gray, you're like, why is a Confederate flag in this thing? It was more to honor the guy who died than anything else. They have made it. They're one of the smallest towns ever to make it to get to play in the Little League World Series. And that's what I love about this. And I know we're going to have some big town from California or Texas or whatever, but these tiny towns in Iowa and all over the place that get to participate in this thing. And then even some of the Little Leagues in big cities that you don't normally get to see or be surprised participating. I just love the whole event. At some point, I want to go to Williamsport, except my kids both hate baseball. Although we did go to a baseball game last night, and we are going tomorrow night. I got free tickets to last night's game. Speaking of which, so last night's game was St. Patrick's Day in August was the theme of the thing. Started playing Irish songs, but it's some for when it was the Schaumburg Boomers against the Joliet Slammers. There's a jail in Joliet, so they have like their jailbirds with the stripes on them, right?
There's some good jokes there, huh?
Yeah, there are. So every time the Boomers come up, they have their walk-up song. But for the Joliet team, every time they come up, they play an Irish song of some sort. But at some point, they ran out of Irish songs. So they're coming up, and I'm like, is that Gordon Lightfoot? They started playing Canadian folk songs. They played one of my favorite songs of all time that I've never heard anywhere on the radio in the United States, Home for a Rest by Spirit of the West. I love that song with all my heart. It is one of my 10 favorite songs of all time. And they started playing it on the radio when or on the thing when the best players came up. I'm like, apparently Canadian folk music is the same thing as Irish music.
You just somewhere Andrea's ears are burning.
God, I love Spirit of the West. I love everything about that.
Yeah, that is
R.I.P. to their lead singer who died a couple of years ago.
the Canadian staple at any party.
Yes, you have to forgive me. I'm not at my best. I've been gone for a month. I've been drunk since I left. My sister and I danced to that at her wedding. It came on in Puerto Rico. So she got married at the old fort in Puerto Rico, and that came on, and I got real excited. And the two of us just Irish reeled in front of everybody. Nobody, my daughter was like 3 at the time, and I had her in my arms when I jumped up there, and I had to hand her off because she was like, ah. So I love that song. That song will never not come on and make me want to dance. But anyway, but yeah, just
played U2 nonstop.
They could, but that would have been too much. Or there was no U2, there was no Van Morrison. There was a lot of Chieftains and Clancy Brothers and stuff along those lines. So, but anyway, yeah. So the Little League World Series is happening shortly. I'm very excited. I love it every single year. And oh yeah, but sorry, the other thing, we're going tomorrow night as well because tomorrow night is marshmallow fight night. At the end of the game, big marshmallows, and I didn't think we were gonna be able to go because of a family event. And then one of the kids from the family event got sick today. There's a stomach bug, so we postponed it. So we're gonna go tomorrow. I'm gonna wear my Ghostbusters jersey that I got last time I was there, and for that thing, and throw marshmallows at each other after the game. So
nice.
Yeah, the Little League World Series, it's awesome. I love it every year. It's the most baseball I'm gonna watch this entire year. So
I may or may not be going to a game on my birthday. I might do an independent league game finally. I haven't been to
one. Which team?
Well, I don't know what they're playing. It's Winnipeg Gold Eyes here. So
what league are they in?
I think it's just Northern Independent.
I'm gonna look that up while I have a chance here.
Okay.
They are in the American Association of Professional Baseball League.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of Canadian teams in our league, but they're mostly out in the East.
Well, yeah, but they're not part of it, associated with any club.
Neither are any of our teams. We're the Frontier League.
Oh, I thought Schaumburg was single A.
We are single A, but I guess yeah, we're single A. But we're not associated with any of the things. Oh, so you guys have the Chicago Dogs? Okay. Chicago Dogs are playing Rosemont. They're fairly well supported here. So, and the Kane County Cougars. I've been to their games several times. I realize the same league.
Gold Eyes are a fish.
Yep. And we're the Boomers, which is a prairie chicken. So,
who do you think would win a fight?
Are we fighting on land or in water?
That's a pretty good question.
So you have the East Division is the Chicago Dogs, the Cleburne Railroaders, which are out of Cleburne, Texas, the Gary South Shore Railcats, the Kane County Cougars, the Lake County Dockhounds, and the Milwaukee Milkmen.
Oh, I love that.
The West is the Fargo Moorhead Redhawks, the Kansas City Monarchs. Oh, I like that name a lot. That's, of course, playing off of the old Eagle League team. The Lincoln Salt Dogs, the Sioux City Explorers, the Sioux Falls Canaries, and the Winnipeg Golden Eyes. So you're the only Canadian team in this whole league.
Oh, Canada.
Canada.
Yeah, they must hate it when they have to cross the border, I think.
Yeah. So anyway.
Well, sometimes I cheat on Evan with other shows.
We do.
Yeah. So weekly show that I'm sort of behind on uploading a lot of them just because it's just been so much going on, and a lot of the ones I've been doing, we have to add a few videos here and there. So if you're looking for something that I'm mentioning and when's it coming, it'll get there. One show that I do with Andrea Tessman and Brad Nelson is How the Hell Was This a Hit? And there's a couple that recorded that will eventually go up. Recently recorded is Thomas Dolby's She's Blinded Me with Science.
You blinded me with science.
I
All
thought
my tubes and wires.
Oh no, that guy was a
What?
real scientist.
Yeah, he was.
I didn't know that.
Good heavens, Miss Nakamoto or Sakamoto, you're beautiful.
Yeah, apparently he did that because Thomas Dolby at that time had an Asian fetish,
Of course.
which I cannot judge for obvious reasons. But anyway, also what did we just record? Crap, we just did it. Whatever, doesn't matter. What we're doing next week is this will be interesting. Limp Biscuits Nookie.
I did it all for the nookie, the cookie.
Yeah, a band I still to this day I didn't know how I felt about him 30 years ago. I don't know how I feel about him now.
Yeah. It's
Very
gonna be interesting. This year yeah, Limp Bizkit is eligible this year, right? For the Rock Hall?
Oh yeah, they're eligible. So, but it's I kind of look at them as in a way the kiss of their generation. A lot of people love them. A lot of people are dedicated to them. But I mean, critically, they're not that impressive. But they knew what they were. Oh, I remember what we just did. We did Rebecca Black's Friday.
She has an actual singing voice. She's not bad after they took her out of that thing.
Oh God, yeah, that was
I thought it was terrible, but her other stuff's not bad.
yeah, well, there's a whole deep dive about the producer that we went into, and it's pretty dark.
Just by the way, I was just looking. The Winnipeg Golden Knights have the most wins in the American Association. You have the most championships.
I did not know that.
With 3.
It's a pretty neat little stadium. It's not even like I could walk there in 10 minutes. We just for whatever reason haven't gone to it. Just like I don't know. I think but I also need to get a baseball cap with a fish with a baseball bat. I just need that.
Fair enough.
That's the one thing I'm missing in my collection. So that's coming up. We also have the show that we do with Vinny Lospinuso. Vinny makes a Hall of Fame case for. The one we're going to be recording on Monday is on current senior finalist who may or may not advance to a finals. We don't know. Al Wister.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so he's chosen that one. So we're going to be recording that on Monday. That one will probably be out quickly. There's a few that are backlogged. What I do with Glenn Pulowski, which is the Classic Sports Review. So we have 2 in the can. One, which is the roller games episode that I've mentioned before. The other one that we did a week ago, it's where they probably could have wore the Joliet jersey for some of them. It's the 1994 baseball All-Star game.
Yes.
I counted to see how many more would I have more steroid users or wife abusers. 5-4 steroids.
Well, that's how they didn't do American National League that year. They divided them that way. So
yeah, they're man.
I will say at some point, if Glenn wants to go through the supposed crimes of the Patriots and how they compare to the rest of the league, I'm more than happy to do so. I did pick that up from your episode. Glenn is a very bright man, but he is thinking with his heart and not his head on a lot of that stuff. And I am very consistent in saying the Patriots are not entirely innocent of everything. But to think that A, they're the only team that did any of that stuff, and B, that what they did was somehow incredibly violating of anything does not hold up to the light of facts.
That was how I knew whether you were going to watch it or not, was whether you mentioned that to me.
Yeah, I want to leave it. I'm more than happy to talk to Glenn about it. We've sort of talked about a little bit online, and he's like that, Patriots fan, whatever. I'm on record as saying that the docking of the first round pick for Spygate is entirely the correct decision. Belichick was told there was a memo that went out to the league saying don't film from the sidelines. 6 days later, the Patriots filmed from the sidelines. Like they were legitimately warned about it 6 days ahead of time. Was it illegal prior to that? No. Did other teams do it since then? Yes. Did the rest of them get docked on it? No. But so I have no problem with them being like, hey, don't do this. And then they went around and did it. No problem with that. I just don't think the geography of where you're filming from matters as much. Because had they been filming from the stands, it's fine. filming from the sidelines is a problem. Geography, not methodology, is weird. As for, of course, Deflategate, that is the second biggest crock of shit in the history of the league, behind only StarCaps. StarCaps for the Vikings is the dumbest scandal in the league history, where the Williams brothers, not really brothers, but they asked the league what
Williams Wall.
Yeah, the Williams Wall in the Vikings asked, "Hey, we want to make sure we don't run afoul of your rules. What supplements should we take?" The league's like, "Take these supplements." They took those supplements, and the supplements had banned materials in them, and then they got busted for banned material, like essentially HGH usage. That's dumb. That is the single dumbest thing, that they suspended them for 4 games for that. The second dumbest one is Brady the deflated footballs, which the NFL said in court they had no evidence anything happened. And the only way you can think anything happened is if you think Walt Anderson was confused and was a liar, because that's essentially what they said in the report, that he must have used the wrong needle because his stuff didn't show anything having been wrong, but had to use the other needle, then there was a problem. The whole thing was stupid.
See, for me, it's Bountygate, and I don't care because we won.
Bountygate is also incredibly dumb, but Bountygate, at least something may have happened. In StarCaps, the only reason anything happened was the NFL's fault, and in Deflategate, nothing happened. So nothing happened is not as bad as something happened because the NFL was moronic. And then what happened with the Saints, Bountygate is also stupid, but not that. I think something was there with Greg Williams. I just don't think.
I don't think I'm going to watch that movie with Kevin James and Sean Payton.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, though, the whole thing, I'm more than happy to go through what George Allen did and Howard Mudd and all the other people who. George Allen had someone hide in a barrel by the practice facility for the Giants and record their practice when he was the coach of the Redskins. Howard Mudd was known across the league for recording stuff. And guess who Howard Mudd was the offensive line coach for? The Kansas City Chiefs, who had Mike Tomlin, and then he went to be the offensive line coach for the Colts with Tony Dungy. Like, it's all over the place, guys. It's literally everywhere. And the stuff that people are upset about, I'm not saying the Patriots are innocent. They're not. The stuff they got busted for, filming, the film crew who was filming the sidelines for the Bengals when the Bengals were 2-14 like 4 years ago, they deserved all the stupid shit that came away for that. You're the Patriots. Don't fucking film. Just don't do it. Right? They deserve the deduction, everything like that. But there's so many other teams that do the same shit and nobody cares. So the Jets got busted for filming on the sidelines. You know what happened to the Jets after the Patriots? You know what the Jets happened to Jets?
I don't think anything.
Yeah. You know how you know nothing happened? Because you never heard about it. You know how you know there's no problem with the deflated footballs? Because the NFL collected all the data. If there was a problem, do you think the NFL would release the data?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, like, they seem like stand-up people.
Of course. If there was a problem, they would have released the data to show that the Patriots cheated. What did they do with the data? They destroyed it because there was nothing wrong. Like, the whole thing is stupid. So I get that Glenn hates the Patriots because he's a Bills fan. I hate Bills fans right now. There's no greater disconnect between how fans are reacting to how their team is done versus how the team is actually done. They're convinced that they have won 3 Super Bowls with this current iteration of their team. And they haven't even gotten to an AFC championship.
Him and I have been talking that work for the Classic Sports Review. We were talking about Man versus Beast. So first half that, second half, the two of you can sort of duke that out. I'm just gonna laugh.
All right, let me get all my stuff together for that.
There you go. Because we have to do a few before he goes back to Antarctica to defend his.
Right. I respect the hell out of Glenn, but he is thinking about this emotionally because he never actually had to look into any of it, right? The Patriots cheated. It made him feel good about it. Like, I'll tell you right now, the Red Sox, when they cheated with the Apple Watches, 100% should have had the fucking book thrown at them. 100% they cheated. There's nothing I'm not going to defend them. I'm not going to say anything about them. They cheated. They should have everything thrown at them. I know the Astros get more bullshit than the Red Sox do. But the Red Sox deserve every single thing that comes their way from that bullshit. absolute 100% bullshit. You will never hear me defend them. The Patriot stuff, both of them, is dubious at best.
All right, that'll be
And
part
don't even
two.
get me started on the Tuck rule. Yeah, don't even get me started on the Tuck rule. So,
Oh dear. I also do other shows. It's
oh yeah, we were doing that. We're wrapping up the show. I apologize.
yeah, my last plug of the day, the retro football show with Paul Lawrence. We got 2 in the tank that I gotta like add the videos to, and or get Ted to do it because I don't do it. We did Super Bowl 9, Super Bowl 10, and we're recording tomorrow Super Bowl 11, which isn't necessarily a competitive game, but it's really the birth of the Raiders' mystique. So I got a real kick out of it. Yeah.
Is that the 75 season?
No, this well, it would have been the 76 season because this was in 70. This game was in 77. I found because like NFL, they will have the full NFL YouTube, the full thing. But I found the halftime show, so I made Paul watch it, which is
Up with People.
no, that was the one we just did. The one before that, Up with People was the one before this one, and Up with People. Oh my God, it's so
I know the one before, by the way, that the one before Super Bowl 10 was Raiders. Who was Super Bowl 10?
oh God.
You said you just did it.
I know I just did it, but I'm Dallas lost to Pittsburgh.
Oh, Dallas lost to Pittsburgh. Okay, so then it was the 76 season. That the Patriots should have been. The Patriots should have been that Super Bowl when they got absolutely screwed on the roughing the passer penalty.
Yeah. Because well, that's the one I'm doing now. Because like
so it was 76. They got screwed.
Right.
On that.
Right. So because we always look at how they got there. So like we look at how
they called him for a late hit as he was hitting him as the ball was being released. They called him for a late hit.
I'll have to watch that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, just go like every time someone brings up the Tuck rule, you're just watch the late hit on Sugar Hamilton on what's his name? The
Stabler?
Yeah, Ken Stabler. Like it was bang bang with the throw, and they called him for a late hit and roughing the passer.
I'm gonna put this out here. Ken Stabler and Chris Christopherson have never been in the same room at the same time.
And they're not going to again unless it's a mausoleum. So
I don't know. I don't know. I'm just saying that
how did Ken Stabler feel about what's her name ripping up the Pope's picture? Because Chris Christopherson defended the shit out of her.
Absolutely. Well, I'm sure he did. I don't know.
He did.
Ken Stabler? Sounds like something he would do.
Probably. Actually, I take that back. That's probably something Ken Stabler would do.
Ken Stabler.
Long live the memory of the snake.
I'm amazed how the age of some of these people, like, Ken Stabler was 31 at this point, and like you look like
had like gray hair and a beard down to here.
Yeah, Fred Biletnikoff. Holy crap!
Oh yeah,
my God, like 34. He looks like he's 44, not even an athlete. Like it's the most.
I mean, it's the drinking and the smoking. I mean, that's part of the thing. Like, people are like, oh, people look younger now than they used to. Yeah, because we're not all walking around through a cloud of cigarette smoke all the time.
Crazy. But
I'm the same age now. I'm the same age now as Lee Marvin in the Dirty Dozen, and he looks like he's 30 years older than me.
Lee. Yeah, well, Lee Marvin. My God.
I'm older than what's his name in the Dirty Dozen? The Death Wish. Charles Bronson. I'm older than Charles Bronson was in the Dirty Dozen. So
Charles Bronson looked pretty good then.
Charles Bronson looked like he was 61.
Did not look like he was 61.
If his face were any more lined and tanned and like squished,
then that would look like in Death Wish.
Yeah, that's true. So anyway, all right, let's close this thing. We're talking.
Okay, yeah. Well, before I forget, the halftime show is the Mouseketeers.
Wow, they went up with Musketeers.
Yeah, actually, one of the songs that they sang, and I'm going to be inspired, and they don't know that this is coming because I can say this here because Andrew and Brad don't watch this because they know nothing about sports. So one of the songs they did in between their Disney medley was Una Paloma Blanca.
No, Una Paloma Blanca.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that song.
Yeah. So that is going to be what we're going to pick on mine. So yeah, so that we're gonna have like 3 in the tank, and then Paul's going back to work. So we're trying to like record a bunch, and then I'll just edit them in the fall, I guess.
Cool.
So yeah, that's pretty much what we got going on. Also, I got to tell you this because this just got decided really before, because we're gonna do our senior show
Okay.
now. Jack wanted to make sure that Pierce and Brian could get on.
Okay.
So he's sort of forfeiting stuff because to be on there because because it's going to be earlier. So it'd be 7 o'clock our time, Monday the 21st.
Probably can do that.
Okay, great. Because he wanted to make sure that you were there because you can keep people in check. Apparently, I cannot. He's correct.
I am very good at keeping people in check.
Yes, I am horrible at it.
It's being kid 4 out of 5.
There you go. So that's awesome. So that's going to be coming soon. And that's going to be a live show. So there's a whole lot coming here from Mountain Hall of Fame. We now have a date for the U.S. Hall. Hopefully we get a lot of votes. And
yeah, well, with the date, I know I've said before, but with the date, I do have stuff. I just need to record the back part again. And once I record the back part, you will see starting this week videos coming out. The first one will just say, "Hey, I'm making the announcement," and we will see videos of the nominees, at least on the player side or athlete side. I have some coach stuff too, but not that much. So I'm gonna see if I get at least the athletes between now and November 1st.
Awesome. Sounds good.
140.
There's a lot. There's a lot.
So.
All right, gang, wherever you may be, stay safe, everyone. We bid you adieu from the Buchnerverse.
Peace.
Later.